Agatha Mary Clarissa Miller was born September 15, 1890, in Devon, England. Christie, the youngest daughter of upper-middle-class Frederick and Clara Miller, was homeschooled in an unconventional manner. Clara reportedly did not want her daughter to learn to read until she was 8. Agatha taught herself to read at the age of 5, feeling underestimated, and thus began a lifelong love of literature. In 1912, Agatha met a handsome young aviator named Archibald Archie Christie. The onset of World War I, which both participated in, kept the young lovers separated for years. Despite her mother's concerns that Archie appeared to be a cheat who would never be faithful, Agatha married him on Christmas Eve 1914, when he was on leave. Rosalind, Agatha's only daughter, was born in 1919. Agatha had been writing short tales since she was a teenager, but when her older sister bet her that she couldn't create a good mystery, she wrote her debut novel, The Mysterious Affair at Styles. Following numerous significant rejections, publisher John Lane not only purchased the book, but also signed Agatha to write 5 more books. This proved to be a fantastic decision, as Styles introduced the world to one of literature's most popular characters, the quirky detective Hercule Poirot, who would appear in over 24 novels and several short tales. Agatha proved to be a prolific writer, and her ascent to fame was fast. Unfortunately, she had severe emotional distress just a few years after reaching widespread renown. Her mother, with whom she had been quite close, died in 1926. Her grief caused a severe case of writer's block, and she was unable to complete the book she was working on, The Mystery of the Blue Train. To make matters worse, Archie, as Agatha's mother had prophesied, had started an affair with Nancy Neal, a lady 10 years her junior. On December 3, 1926, about 9 p.m., Agatha put 5-year-old Rosalind to bed and kissed her goodnight. The 36-year-old author took an attached case, left her residence without saying anything, and drove off into the night. The following morning, Agatha's automobile was discovered hanging precariously over the edge of a chalk quarry. The car appeared to have been driven off the road, careening toward a cliff and stopping just before the edge. The attached case contained a fur coat and her driver's license. The driver was not to be discovered. The author's disappearance quickly made international headlines. The well-known mystery writer portrayed herself as a main character in a true-life thriller. 3 days later, however, the hunt for the famed novelist was abruptly halted when Christie's brother-in-law reported receiving a note from her the day after her disappearance, stating that she was traveling to a spa in Yorkshire for rest and treatment. The police, however, felt the letter was a forgery and reopened the case almost immediately. A week after Agatha's disappearance, detectives remained baffled. Despite hundreds of alleged sightings of the famed author throughout the UK, no leads led anywhere. Authorities began to resort to increasingly desperate measures. They brought one of Agatha's dogs to the abandoned automobile, hoping it might trace her smell. Rather, the dog whined pitifully. For unknown reasons, authorities suspected Agatha was in London disguised and probably in male attire. Detectives searched her writings for any clues she may have left behind, and they even gathered a group of mediums and spiritualists to have a scenes at the location of her disappearance. As expected, none of these attempts yielded results. According to reports, 10,000 to 20,000 individuals assisted in the search for the author, including over 1,000 police constables. It's possible that this was the first occasion airplanes were used to look for a missing individual. On December 11th, the New York Times claimed that there had been a significant break in the case. Christie appears to have left 3 letters behind before leaving, one to her brother-in-law, as previously reported. The second was to her private secretary and solely included information about her schedule. The third and most intriguing letter was intended for her spouse. Archie apparently refused to take over the letter to authorities and instead burnt it, claiming it had no information concerning her location. On December 15th, Bob Tappan, banjo player in the resident band at the Swan Hydra Hotel in Harrogate, Yorkshire, apparently saw something familiar about the woman dancing the Charleston while he played. It turns out that Bob Tappan was correct. The woman dancing in front of him in Yorkshire was actually Agatha Christie. It had been 12 days since Agatha Christie was last seen. But here she was, getting down to a novelty song on a Wednesday evening. Agatha's letter to her brother-in-law was correct. After all, she was spending time at a spa in Yorkshire. Agatha had somehow made it from her automobile to King's Cross Station, where she caught a train to Harrogate. She had almost minimal luggage, but was having a delightful and uneventful vacation, attending balls and dances and receiving spa treatments. Despite the fact that she was a target of a nationwide search, no one seemed to trouble her, possibly because she checked in under the alias Mrs. Teresa Neal. After Tappan informed police about the renowned author's whereabouts, Archie went to the hotel to pick up his wife. Agatha reportedly greeted her husband with a cold gaze, as if she had no idea who he was. Archie informed reporters that she doesn't know who she is. She has experienced the most complete loss of memory. When reporters pressed Archie on why his wife chose the name Neal, he deflected, saying she had no idea who she was and pointing out that Agatha had apparently placed ads in the newspaper under that name in the hopes that a relative would come forward and help her learn about herself. Following the incident, Agatha and Archie separated, with the author living with her daughter in a London flat while she sought psychiatric therapy. According to Agatha, this therapy gradually improved her memory. In 1928, she and Archie divorced. Agatha was finally free of her difficult relationship and able to finish The Mystery of the Blue Train. That year, she also realized a childhood ambition of traveling on the Orient Express, which would later inspire one of her most renowned novels, Murder on the Orient Express. In 1930, Agatha married archaeologist Max Mallowan. During her second, happier marriage, Agatha continued to write prolifically, occasionally finishing 2 or 3 volumes per year. She did, however, avoid writing on at least a few topics. In her memoirs, Agatha said nothing about her disappearance or the disillusionment of her first marriage, noting merely that there was no need to linger on it. With Agatha Christie back safe and sound, if evidently reluctant to speak about what happened, it's time to delve into hypotheses regarding what happened in December 1926. Our first hypothesis is that the entire thing was a publicity hoax. This was one of the first explanations proposed when Agatha went missing. Her novel, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, had been released earlier that year, and the belief is that Agatha knew that if she went missing, her immense fame would make her major news, increasing sales. One major flaw with this idea is that the book was already quite popular without the necessity for a stunt. When asked if she could fake her own death, Agatha's secretary responded, quote, "It is ridiculous. Mrs. Christie is too ladylike for that." Our second assumption is that Agatha staged a disappearance to draw attention to and disgrace her husband for his adultery. Agatha was aware that Archie was planning to spend the weekend at his paramour Nancy Neal's house, which happened to be only 6 miles from where Agatha's automobile was discovered. Needless to say, Archie's romantic weekend was ruined by his wife's disappearance. According to biographer Jerry Cade, Agatha not only plotted her escape, but also got support from her sister-in-law and childhood friend, Nan Watts. Cade says that after abandoning her car, Agatha took a local train to London and stayed with Nan that night. Nan would then have paid for her stay in Harrogate. Cade reached this conclusion after asking Nan's daughter, Barbara, to look through family documents. However, the disappearance appears to be a rather elaborate and public method to deal with a cheating spouse, particularly for someone as reserved as Agatha. Our third theory is one put out by Agatha herself. She suffered from memory loss as a result of a vehicle accident. Agatha only spoke about her disappearance once, in February 1928, when she was interviewed by the Daily Mail. The author felt compelled to describe the facts to the best of her ability because the media had persisted to accuse her of fabricating the entire incident. Christie stated that she had been suffering from sleeplessness before to her abduction, sleeping only 2 hours every night. Christie was known to suffer from spells of melancholy and depression, and on the day of her disappearance, she was reportedly contemplating suicide. "I simply wanted my life to end. As I passed Newland Corner that afternoon, I noticed a quarry and considered driving into it. However, since my daughter was with me in the car, I immediately discarded the idea." Agatha continued to recall what happened after she left the house that evening. "All night I drove aimlessly around. When I reached the spot on the road that I assumed was near the quarry I had seen earlier in the day, I turned off the road and down the hill toward it. I let go of the steering wheel and allowed the car to go. The automobile hit something with a lurch and pulled up abruptly. I was thrown against the steering wheel, and my head struck something." Agatha said, "Up until this point, I was Mrs. Christie. However, after the vehicle accident, I lost all memory. I remember arriving at a large railway station and inquiring what it was, only to be startled to learn that it was Waterloo. I then recall arriving at the hotel in Harrogate. When I arrived, I was still muddy and showed indications of my accident. I had now imagined myself as Mrs. Tessa Neal of South Africa. During the interview, Agatha felt a sense of nostalgia for her lost time. As Mrs. Neal, I felt quite happy and content. In some ways, I had transformed into a new woman. Mrs. Christie's fears and anxieties had left me. When I was reintroduced to my life as Mrs. Christie, many of my concerns and anxieties returned. And, while I am not quite well and cheery, and have entirely overcome my morbid tendencies, I do not have Mrs. Neal's level of contentment. Good, I want to go into a few conditions. Critics of Agatha's version question how she could have seen publications with her own face throughout her stay, and remained unaware. The author addressed this during the interview. Quote, I read about Mrs. Christie's absence every day and concluded that she had died. I thought she acted stupidly. I was astonished by my resemblance to her and pointed it out to the other guests in the hotel. It never occurred to me that I could be her since I was confident in my own identity. Agatha went on to explain how spending time with doctors and relatives helped her remember who she was. Following the interview, it appears that few believed she was telling the truth. The Irish Times went so far as to describe her version as complete a work of fiction as any she had written. End of quote. Critics proceeded to bring out an error in Agatha's story. It did not add up. Literally, the money did not add up. Many people questioned how Agatha, as Mrs. Neal, could afford the hotel stay, which included spa services, new clothes, and extravagant beverages and meals. In the interview, Agatha mentioned that she had originally left the residence with £60. Today, £60 would be comparable to almost £3,800. I believe that would cover a week at this hotel. So, are they looking at her bank account? Whatever, they don't know. Yes, she might have had some strange money. We all have some spare cash lying around. Yes, funny money. Funny money. Agatha's last public appearance was at the 1974 film premiere of Murder on the Orient Express, which starred Albert Finney as Hercule Poirot. The author apparently thought the film was a fair rendition, but noted that the famous detective's mustache was not nearly as luxuriant. Agatha Christie died quietly on January 12, 1976, aged 85. The novelist, poet, and playwright created 75 works, including 66 detective novels and 14 short story collections. Her works have sold over 100 million copies and been translated into 100 languages. And, while she was responsible for some of the most popular mystery novels ever told, maybe Agatha Christie's biggest mystery, what happened after she drove into the night one December Friday in 1926, has yet to be solved. What do you think happened? Share your theories below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more real-life mysteries.